In the future, after an unexplained event on Earth, humanity successfully sends people to Mars and begins efforts to build a civilization there. A small family lives in a valley equipped with life support systems, including oxygen, designed for the survivors developing the environment. One night, the family gathers in a room. The family consists of Reza, the father, Ilsa, the mother, and their young daughter, Remy. That night, Reza explains to Remy about the sparkling stars in the sky, and one of the visible celestial bodies is Earth, appearing beautifully patterned, captivating Remy's attention. The next day, like any family, they begin their usual activities. Ilsa tends to the plants in their greenhouse, while Remy plays ball outside alone, and Reza keeps an eye on the surroundings. However, Reza notices something unusual in the distance. As the afternoon passes, Reza still hasn't returned, which makes Remy worried. She uses her binoculars to search for her father, calling out his name loudly, but all she sees are the giant rocks encircling their settlement. Her mother, Ilsa, is preoccupied with taking care of their livestock, prompting Remy to decide to venture out further. As she quietly attempts to leave, Ilsa calls her back, firmly telling her to return. They have a rule that no one is allowed to stray too far from their home. Ilsa then guides Remy back inside the house. As her mother remains busy, Remy anxiously waits for her father's return, feeling that something is not right compared to other days. Night falls, and Ilsa reassures Remy that her father is fine. Moments later, Remy is relieved to hear her father open the door. However, when Reza enters, he appears somber and anxious. When Ilsa arrives, a tense conversation ensues between the parents. Remy eavesdrops, overhearing them discuss the presence of other humans living out there. Hearing this frightens Remy, and she retreats to her room. Reza comes to check on his daughter and tries to comfort her, but Remy still looks scared after hearing their conversation. Her father attempts to reassure her that it's only the three of them in this place, and he tells her to go to sleep. But as the night progresses, Remy remains restless and wakes her parents up for comfort. Her mother plays the guitar and sings a special song for her, calming Remy down a little. Remy then asks her parents if they've ever seen a whale. Reza replies that he hasn't, and neither has Ilsa. They've never seen any animals besides the ones they raise here. Reza tells Remy that Earth isn't the same anymore, which is why they left for Mars to build a new hope. He says they are very fortunate to have this place, and he believes that one day it will be green, just like Earth used to be. After a long conversation, Remy finally feels at peace, and they all go back to sleep. The next day, when Remy wakes up early and gets ready to play outside, she is shocked to find the word leave written nearby. Her mother, Ilsa, who follows her outside, is equally startled. She immediately calls for her husband, Reza, to come quickly. Reza rushes over with his rifle ready to defend them. Ilsa grows more anxious, wondering aloud if it might be her son who left the message. Reza quickly hushes her, insisting they keep it a secret. Naturally, Remy becomes confused, wondering why they're so panicked, as if their lives were in immediate danger. Despite this, Ilsa reassures Remy that everything is fine, though it's clear she's hiding something. The three of them stay inside, monitoring the situation, but no immediate threat is visible. In the midst of the tension, Ilsa mutters that those people will surely return, suggesting that both she and Reza know exactly who they're dealing with. Growing impatient, Reza shouts out, daring the enemy to face him. Remy, terrified by the intense situation, starts crying, as it's the first time she's ever seen her father so angry. They continue watching from inside the house until late afternoon. Remy asks her mother if she can go feed the pigs, but Ilsa refuses. Reza steps in, trying to calm Ilsa down, assuring her that everything will be fine. Still worried about her pigs, Remy decides to sneak out of the house. She reaches the pen to feed her pigs some milk when Ilsa realizes Remy is outside and immediately calls for her to return. Ilsa's shouting draws out the enemy, and suddenly two strangers begin chasing after Remy as she tries to get back to the house. Luckily, Reza had already positioned himself to protect Remy. He quickly shoots one of the attackers with his rifle, but the second stranger continues pursuing her. Ilsa reacts swiftly, running out to knock the stranger down and save Remy. After Ilse brings Remy back inside, Reza spots more enemies in the distance, and a gunfight breaks out between him and the remaining attackers. Ilse helps by spotting the enemy's position and directing Reza, who eventually manages to hit the last attacker. With the situation temporarily under control, Reza returns to gather more ammunition, preparing to patrol the area alone in search of any remaining threats. Remy tries to stop him, but Reza insists on leaving to ensure the safety of his family. Ilse then searched through the belongings of the fallen enemy, taking only what she needed for safety. As night fell and Reza still hadn't returned, both she and Remy were consumed by fear inside the house. Gunshots echoed in the distance, making the mother and daughter even more anxious. That night, Remy needed to go to the toilet, so Ilse escorted her. But strange noises suddenly filled the air, terrifying them. They quickly locked themselves in the tool room. Shortly after, the main lights went out, replaced by a glaring red glow. This heightened their fear, and Ilse decided to stay awake until morning. As daylight broke, Ilse and Remy cautiously stepped out of the room, only to find that Reza still hadn't come back. While Ilse was checking on the pigs, a stranger suddenly appeared, pointing a gun at her, demanding she drop her machete. The man was Jerry, the same person involved in the gunfight with Reza the previous day. Jerry explained that this place used to belong to his parents, and he was even born and raised here. He and his companion had traveled a long way to return to this place, only to find strangers living in what was once his home. Jerry admitted that he didn't care what happened to his parents, as his only goal was to return and settle here. He wasn't looking to make enemies. Jerry gave Ilse two options. They could either stay as long as they didn't cause trouble, or they could leave. However, he warned that beyond the valley, there was nothing and they wouldn't survive out there. Furthermore, Jerry claimed he knew how to operate the systems in this place, so if they made peace, he promised that Ilse and Remy would be safe. He gave them time to think about it and stepped away to give them space. Remy cried, pleading for them to leave, but Ilse said that wasn't possible, promising only to always protect her. Ilse watched Jerry from a distance, and when the opportunity arose, she grabbed a knife from the kitchen and hid, preparing to ambush him. Unfortunately, her attempt was quickly foiled, and Jerry easily overpowered her. Jerry warned Ilse once again that if she continued trying to kill him, her daughter would be left an orphan and he would live alone with Remy. Jerry then made Ilse an offer. If she truly wanted to kill him, he would give her the chance. For the next 30 days, they were to behave peacefully without attacking him. If they succeeded, Jerry promised to put his weapon on the table, allowing Ilse to do whatever she wished with it, even kill him. Ilse reluctantly agreed and then requested permission to bury Reza's body. The three of them went up to the highlands, where Reza and Jerry's two companions were buried. Together they mourned the loss of their loved ones. Remy began to believe that Jerry's words might be true. Perhaps he really was a native of this place. She once again urged her mother to leave the settlement, but Ilse remained silent, saying they must stay if they wanted to survive. The next day, Ilse tried to act normal, but Remy couldn't forgive Jerry, the man who had killed her father. Remy started counting the days they had been there. While tending to the plants, Remy accidentally saw Jerry entering one of the rooms. Curious, she quietly spied on him from the window's rooftop. She saw Jerry hiding his weapon under the house. After Jerry left, Remy boldly opened his bag and found a mask inside. She also discovered a book with a painting of a woman, likely one of the two people her father had taken down. This woman was probably Jerry's lover. That night, Jerry informed Ilse that they had enough supplies to restore the settlement to how it once was. The valley was once much more fertile than it is now. However, Ilse didn't care and didn't want to hear about it. Jerry then told her to turn on the water, revealing that he had fixed the faucet, which brought Ilse some relief. On the 9th day, while Ilse was tidying up, she accidentally activated an advanced robot equipped with artificial intelligence. The robot behaved like a pet, piquing Remy's interest. Though Ilse was worried at first, Jerry assured her the robot was harmless. Remy began playing with it and named the robot Steve. That night, while Remy continued playing with Steve, Ilse and Jerry spent time alone, eventually starting to talk to each other. Jerry opened up about the past before he left the settlement. He admitted he had problems with his parents, which led him to leave and search for a new place. However, he discovered that there was nowhere else left. All cities and other settlements had vanished. No one knew if any humans had survived, which was why he returned home. Upon hearing this, Ilsa explained that she hadn't killed Jerry's mother. When she arrived at the house, Jerry's mother had already passed. The reason Ilsa and her family had ended up living in Jerry's house dated back to their journey from Earth to Mars. Their ship was suddenly shot down after entering Mars' atmosphere. Jerry's father rescued them and allowed Reza and his family to stay in the house. At first, everything seemed fine, and Jerry's father often spoke about his son. However, when Ilsa was 7 months pregnant, Jerry's father suddenly demanded that Reza and his wife leave, claiming it was because they were from Earth. A struggle broke out, and Ilsa ended up slitting Jerry's father's throat. Since Ilsa and Reza had never seen another settlement besides this one, they decided to stay there. Ilsa warned Jerry that he might meet the same fate as his father if he kept bothering her and Remy. But Jerry, not wanting to escalate things, let it go, stating that what's done is done. He expressed a desire to make peace with Ilsa, though Ilsa found it difficult to accept. That night, as everyone was preparing to sleep, Jerry said goodnight for the first time, though it wasn't warmly received by Ilsa and Remy. In their room, Ilsa made sure her daughter was comfortable, and it seemed Remy had started to adapt to their new situation. The next morning, Jerry approached Remy, who was at the pig pen. He asked if she had seen the picture of the woman he kept in his book, knowing full well that Remy had taken it. Even though the little girl didn't admit it, Jerry didn't mind. He told her that anyone who found it could keep it, trying to win her over in his own way. By the 15th day, the tension between them all had started to ease. On the 22nd day, Remy began to miss her father and could only hold and smell his jacket for comfort. Meanwhile, as Ilsa tended to the plants, Jerry approached her, and it seemed like they had made peace. In an unexpected turn, the two shared a romantic moment for the first time, unaware that Remy was watching from a distance. Seeing this made Remy feel disappointed and betrayed by her mother. The relationship between Remy and her mother grew strained, and eventually, Remy decided to run away from home in secret. While she was sneaking out, Steve, the robot, who was working in the yard, spotted her and followed. Once Ilsa realized Remy was missing, she panicked and immediately told Jerry to find her before she got too far. Meanwhile, Remy instructed Steve to return home, leaving a message for her mother, saying she didn't need to worry about her anymore and could just have another child with Jerry. Remy continued walking until she reached the giant cliffs surrounding the valley. As she climbed, she discovered a transparent barrier blocking her path. The barrier stretched high into the sky and encircled the entire valley. It turned out that their settlement was protected by an invisible dome. Furious, Remy screamed in frustration, upset that her parents had never told her about this. As she wandered, Remy noticed a large gate at the base of the cliffs. Curious, she approached it and accidentally pressed a button that caused the massive door to open. Inside, there was a tunnel. From the distance, she could hear her mother calling for her, prompting Remy to rush into the tunnel. Not long after she entered, the gate suddenly closed behind her, and another door opened on the opposite side. Remy soon found herself struggling to breathe and eventually fainted. Fortunately, Jerry arrived just in time and quickly carried her back to safety. When Remy woke up, she found herself back at home. Confused and frustrated, she walked outside where Jerry told her that there was nothing out there beyond rocks and sand. If there was any life left, it was only waiting for its time to vanish. He explained that the atmosphere that had once been created and maintained had exploded in space, leading to the destruction of humanity below. People had perished, fighting for resources. He emphasized that they were fortunate to have this place, protected by a dome where they could live in peace. From Jerry's explanation, Remy understood that there had once been many humans who successfully built a civilization on Mars, creating an atmosphere like Earth's. However, it was now all gone after the atmosphere collapsed. That night, the three of them sat down to eat together, but there was a sense of awkwardness in the air. Remy had no appetite, which only made her mother more worried. She often isolated herself, constantly counting the days since the agreement, and now they had reached day 25. Before bed, Ilse tried to be honest with Remy, revealing that she and Jerry were now sharing a bed. She told Remy that they needed to accept this, as they also needed a father figure to protect and take care of their family. However, Remy couldn't accept it, and her silence grew. The next day, Jerry, playing his guitar idly, suggested Ilse play a song to cheer up Remy. Remy was reluctant, but Ilse chose to play the guitar anyway. The song she played was the same one she used to play with Razor, but instead of bringing happiness, it made Remy even sadder. She couldn't bear to see someone else taking her father's place. Overcome with emotion, Remy ran to the greenhouse and locked herself inside, unable to handle the situation. Her mother couldn't do much, as the event brought back painful memories for both of them. Later in the kitchen, Jerry asked if they were okay. Ilse replied that Remy probably needed more time to adjust. Suddenly, Jerry took out a pistol and placed it on the table. He wanted to ensure that Ilse was truly loyal to him, reminding her of their relationship and their promise to build a new life together. Jerry went outside to talk to Remy, but suddenly Ilse appeared and pointed the pistol at him. Remy, witnessing the scene, froze, knowing that they hadn't yet reached the 30-day mark of their agreement. Jerry calmly warned Ilse that if she pulled the trigger, Remy would become an orphan, but Ilse didn't care and pulled the trigger anyway. The gun was empty. Panicking as she realized the terms of their initial deal, Ilse ran to grab a knife, but Jerry swiftly killed her on the spot. Seeing her mother dead at Jerry's hands, Remy was terrified and ran as fast as she could. But it was futile. Jerry quickly caught up to her. He tried to assure her that he wouldn't hurt her, and in her fear, Remy agreed to obey him, afraid she would be his next target. Since that incident, Remy's personality changed drastically. Once a cheerful child, she became quiet and withdrawn. Together, they buried Ilse's body. Although Remy obeyed Jerry, she kept her distance, spending most of her time talking to her pigs. Years passed, and Remy grew into a beautiful teenager, but she struggled with communication. She became extremely quiet, barely speaking, and only whispered when talking to her pigs. One day, as she was feeding her favorite pig, Jerry approached her holding a pistol. He handed it to Remy and instructed her to try it. Without hesitation, Remy took the gun and aimed it at the head of her pig. It became clear that Remy was completely obedient to Jerry, seemingly resigned to whatever he commanded. At mealtimes, Jerry often tried to talk to her, but Remy remained silent, never responding. Jerry, however, had accepted her quiet demeanor. He then informed Remy that the next day he would be going to the valley to tend to the environment they had been cultivating. He mentioned that if she didn't want to join him, it was fine. He would take Steve the robot and return home by lunchtime. The next day, when Jerry hadn't returned by lunchtime, Remy grew anxious and decided to take him some food in the valley. When she arrived, she saw a lush green environment, a new space they had built together. She found Jerry bathing in a new pond. He invited her to dive in, encouraging her to experience the clean water. Initially afraid of the water, Remy eventually mustered the courage to dive in, feeling immense joy from the sensation of swimming, something she had never experienced before. After they bathed, they sat together to relax. Jerry offered Remy a drink to warm up, which she accepted. Upon returning home, Jerry called Remy over and gave her a gift, a portrait of Ilse. This gesture made Remy incredibly sad, as Ilse was the last person she had truly loved. Jerry tried to comfort Remy, who was overwhelmed with sorrow. He embraced her, but to Remy's shock, Jerry suddenly kissed her. Stunned by this, Remy ran to her room crying uncontrollably. Jerry, still following her, left the portrait of Ilse by Remy's bedroom door, trying to reconcile with her emotions. The next day, Jerry closely watched Remy's movements. Remy seemed to be working on something, assembling an oxygen mask she had been secretly hiding from Jerry. During dinner, Jerry told Remy that it was time for them to have offspring. Hearing this, Remy finally spoke, rejecting Jerry's request. She said that she would obey any of Jerry's commands, but not this one. Her refusal angered Jerry, who told her that there were no other humans left besides them, so it was impossible for Remy to hope for anyone else. However, despite his arguments, Remy still refused to be intimate with Jerry. Frustrated, Jerry gave her time to reconsider. Remy isolated herself, accompanied by the robot Steve, who kept trying to play with her, much to her annoyance. She retreated to her room, but upon opening the door, she found Jerry already waiting inside, holding the oxygen mask she had been hiding. Enraged, Jerry began to yell at Remy, insisting that no humans existed outside. He took the mask to throw it away, but Remy chased after him, pleading for a chance to leave the settlement. Jerry refused, claiming that the outside world was too dangerous and that Remy's safety was his responsibility. Remy responded by saying that she saw Jerry as a father figure, which was why she could never be intimate with him. She explained that no father raises a daughter just to have offspring with her. Remy's words deeply hurt Jerry, and in a fit of anger, he slammed her head into the ground, knocking her unconscious. Remy woke up tied up. As she struggled, Jerry tried to comfort her, saying that he was forced to do this because it was their last chance to continue their bloodline. He promised to let her go once it was over. Remy fought back harder, prompting Jerry to threaten her with a pistol. As he started to act, the robot Steve suddenly appeared and shot Jerry in the neck. Enraged, Jerry quickly shot the robot, damaging it, and then tried to stop the bleeding from his neck. This gave Remy the perfect opportunity to free herself. Once free, Remy grabbed the gun and aimed it at Jerry. Helpless and resigned to his fate, Jerry could only regret his situation. Remy pulled the trigger, and the bullet pierced Jerry's body, killing him instantly. The next morning, Remy buried Jerry's body on the hill. Despite everything, Jerry had raised her from childhood. Now Remy was truly alone, taking care of the plants and animals by herself. Occasionally she slept beside her parents' graves, reminiscing about the past. Gradually, Remy repaired the broken robot Steve, while preparing the equipment she would need to explore other parts of Mars. Eventually, Steve was fully restored, and Remy prepared to leave. She tasked Steve with taking care of the settlement, and they parted ways. Remy entered the tunnel as the exit door began to open, and she put on her oxygen mask. When she reached the outside, just as Jerry had said, there was nothing but sand and rocks stretching to the horizon. However, Remy remained optimistic, believing that there must be other communities on the planet surviving just like her. As the gate closed behind her, the film ended. And that's it for the story series of this film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. Goodbye.